and easy concept based learning. This lecture is a part of my odontogenic tumor lecture series, and so far I have completed ameloblastoma and its different types. Today I will be explaining another important odontogenic tumor, which is adenomatoid odontogenic tumor. So let's get started. Adenomatoid odontogenic tumor, also called as AOT, was previously called as adenoameloblastoma. But this term is no longer in use because it creates a confusion regarding the relation of the tumor with ameloblastoma. Another name or synonym for AOT is two-thirds tumor. Two-thirds tumor. Why is it called as two-thirds tumor? We will discuss in next few minutes. Moving on to the introduction or a general brief idea about AOT. Some authors consider AOT as a hamartoma, which is nothing but a local malformation of the tissue resembling the origin of the tissue or resembling the local origin of the tissue. Whereas some authors consider it as a benign odontogenic neoplasm. There is a difference of opinion here, and there are reasons for considering each one of them. Hamartoma is usually considered because of the smaller size of AOT, since it is smaller in size, and also the less aggressive nature. So the authors that consider this as hamartoma, they say that it is too small to be considered as an odontogenic neoplasm, and also it is less aggressive. Whereas authors who consider it as benign odontogenic neoplasm, they argue that because it is treated early and it is early diagnosis and treatment is the attributable factor for the smaller size and less aggressive nature. Early diagnosis and treatment. Okay. So still they have not found a concrete conclusion. Still authors consider and still there are difference of opinion regarding this. Let us see the clinical features. Okay, before we see the clinical features, let us see the tissue of origin. That is the histogenesis. AOT is again a odontogenic tumor. So it is said to be originating from the dental lamina and its remnants. The remnants of dental lamina is cell rest of cells. Dental lamina and its remnants. Now moving on to the clinical features. AOT, like any odontogenic tumor, has two variants, intraosseous and peripheral variant. It has an intraosseous variant which occurs in the jaw bones, and it has a peripheral variant which occurs outside the bone in the soft tissue. Let us first see the conventional or the intraosseous variant. The intraosseous AOT is again of two types or can vary clinically as either a follicular type or extrafollicular. So this follicle that we are talking about is the tooth follicle, or the follicle in which the tooth is enclosed just before erupting. Okay. So now please appreciate the figure on the right. This one. So here you are seeing some 4 or 5 different types of AOT, the different types that they can present in. Okay. The first one, which is labeled as F, you can see it is associated with a tooth which is unerupted. These are the teeth which are already erupted in the oral cavity, and this is the jawbone. So here there is one unerupted maxillary cuspid, and AOT is surrounding the crown of the unerupted tooth. Okay, so that is why it is a follicular variant. Next, all the other types of presentation are the extrafollicular variant. So here the extrafollicular variant can be either periapical presentation where it surrounds the apex of the root, or it can arise not related to teeth at all, just in the bone, solitary lesion like that, or it can manifest in between the two roots like this, or the radiolucency can be, or the lesion can be superimposed at the mid-root level. Obviously, these are to be discussed more aptly in the radiographic features, but since I have told about the follicular and extrafollicular variant, I am telling you this figure. But since it is all present in the bone, definitely you can't see this clinically. So we will again come to this when we see the radiographic features. Next is the age that is more commonly affected. AOT usually occurs in the younger age group, and the average age that AOT manifests is 18 years. So it is a very younger age group that you see AOT. 18 years is the average age. Okay. The gender that most commonly affects are females more than males. 2/3 of the tumor occur in females. Coming to the location of the tumor, 2/3 of the tumor occur in the maxilla as compared to the mandible, and again 2/3 of it occurs in the anterior region as compared to the posterior region. So at this point, I am going to explain why this tumor is also called as 2/3 tumor. Because 2/3 of the tumor occurs in females, 2/3 of it occurs in the maxilla, and 2/3 of the tumor occurs in the anterior region. So that is the reason this tumor is called as 2/3 tumor. Okay. Now, moving on to the radiographic features. Before we move on to radiographic features, let us discuss a little about the peripheral variant of this tumor. The peripheral variant. So, as in my previous lecture on peripheral ameloblastoma, I had mentioned peripheral, whenever it is used along with an intraosseous tumor, it means that is the extraosseous counterpart. So, the peripheral AOT also occurs in the soft tissues. In the soft tissues, again, maxilla is more common than mandible. So, maxillary gingiva is more common. It is 10 times more common. The ratio here is remarkable. It is 10 times more common. And also it is more common in females, just like the intraosseous counterpart. But it is 14 times more common in females. So, these two features are remarkable that you need to remember about the peripheral variant. Okay. Then coming to the clinical presentation, the intraosseous lesion clinically presents as a small swelling. That swelling can range anywhere from 1.5 to 3 centimeter in diameter. That's it. It's a very small, painless swelling that you see. Okay. The patient will be completely asymptomatic. Coming to the peripheral variant, this is also similar to any other peripheral lesion that you see. It appears as a small nodule, small, firm nodule. And the color of the nodule is same as the adjacent gingiva, overlying gingiva, I'm sorry. That is the gingiva colored swelling. So this is about the clinical features and presentation of both intraosseous and peripheral variant. Moving on to the radiographic features. Radiographically, as it is a small lesion, it generally manifests as unilocular radiolucency. Okay, so it is a unilocular radiolucency. And it is well defined with sclerotic border. Well defined with sclerotic border. So this kind of appearance also explains why it is so less aggressive, and the recurrence rate is also why is it so less. Sometimes when it is associated with an unerupted tooth, just like we saw in the follicular variant there, you see a pericoronal radiolucency. You see a pericoronal radiolucency when it is associated with unerupted teeth. Now the important thing here to remember is there is one other very characteristic lesion where you see pericoronal radiolucency, that is dentigerous cyst. So how to differentiate between dentigerous cyst and AOT now? The attachment of the radiolucency is apical to the CEJ here. The attachment of the radiolucency is apical to the CEJ. Now again, it's time to observe this figure again. See here. This is the CEJ and see the outline of the tumor. It is starting a little apical to the CEJ. Whereas in dentigerous cyst, where is the attachment? Dentigerous cyst is attached at the CEJ. Another characteristic feature of dentigerous cyst, right? So this is only when it is associated with unerupted teeth. Next, coming to the radiographic. Sometimes it also manifests as a mixed radio-opaque radiolucent lesion. Mixed radio-opaque radiolucent lesion. This radio-opacity that you see is because of the occasional calcifications or some dysplastic dentin that we see. So because of these occasional hard tissues in the tumor, radiographically it can appear as a mixed radio-opaque radiolucent lesion. So this is pretty much about the radiographical features. Again, I will ask you to appreciate this figure here. So these are the radiographical picture that you can see. Anything can occur in AOT. It can occur either as associated with the unerupted tooth, or as a solitary lesion, or periapically superimposed at the mid-root level, or in between the two roots. Now here when you see, when it occurs in between the roots, it tends to diverge the roots. Okay, this is an important feature. Did you notice I have not drawn any kind of resorptive surface on the root here? Because AOT does not resorb the root. It's very rare. Instead, it displaces and diverges the roots. That is an important feature. This again shows its less aggressive nature. Because remember ameloblastoma, we had seen resorption of root there. Because ameloblastoma was a locally aggressive lesion. Next, coming to the histopathology. Histopathology, you can observe this diagram here on the right hand side. Now, histopathology is important and a little complex, I feel. Let us break it and see. At low magnification, this diagram that I have drawn is a 4x, that is the lowest magnification. Here, you see these solid nodules of cuboidal or columnar cells. So that is the first characteristic feature that you observe when you see it under the microscope. These solid nodules of the cells, which are either cuboidal or columnar, they form a rosette-like pattern. They can form a rosette-like pattern. Or it can show convoluted pattern also. Rosette is nothing but the rose, how the petals are present. Similar arrangement you see here, these cells. Now, some other cells, they can be arranged in a tubular or duct-like pattern. So, different neoplastic odontogenic epithelial cells can be arranged in a duct-like pattern. Now, whenever in histopathology you observe the word duct, okay, duct like structures or duct like pattern, it is always a typical figure like this. A small follicle or a circle, whatever you call it, and some cells, probably cuboidal cells only, they will be arranged like this in the periphery, and inside in the center will be the lumen, which will mostly be empty or it may be filled with some fluid or coagulum. Okay, so this is a typical appearance of a duct. Okay, so always remember this. So when we say here duct like pattern, the tissue or the epithelium is arranged in a similar way. And here, if you closely observe, the cells are cuboidal to columnar, and the nuclei, they are placed away from the lumen. This is also one important feature. The nuclei is placed away from the lumen. And inside, in the center, you see the lumen. Sometimes the lumen can be empty, or sometimes it can contain something called as eosinophilic coagulum. So it appears as a highly pink structures that you see inside the lumen. Next, in between or intervening these nodules or nest-like cells and the duct-like arrangement, you see spindle or round cells which are present. These are also odontogenic epithelial cells only. So they are arranged in strands or cords. These are the spindle cells, probably resembling the stenate reticulum-like tissue. Okay. Then here and there somewhere you might see some calcifications, some eosinophilic deposits, and sometimes in some sections dysplastic dentin is also seen, and it is not very uncommon to see this dysplastic dentin. So this dysplastic dentin or the calcifications, all these structures only attribute to the radiopacities. Now, this is about the neoplastic odontogenic epithelium. Coming to the connective tissue, the intervening connective tissue is normal, delicate, and fibrovascular. So it's a more fibrous and vascular component will be seen, and very less cellular. So it is hypocellular. The cellular content is less and more of fibrous and vascular content. Now, coming to some extra features that sometimes we see, so there can be cystic degeneration in some of these nests. Okay, when these nests grow to a large size, the central cells, because of the lack of nutrition and blood supply, might undergo cystic degeneration. So cystic formation or cystic degeneration can also be seen. So this completes the AOT histopathology. Next we will see the treatment. Again, all throughout the lecture we have stressed on the fact that AOT is a very small, less aggressive lesion. So the treatment will also be some conservative surgical excision. No radical approach is required here. Conservative surgical excision. So this brings us to the end of AOT. Okay, any doubts or any suggestions, please comment in the comment section and give me some ideas, or you can give me some topics which you want me to cover. Okay, your regular comments and your interaction with me only will motivate me to make more videos and help you in the goals that you have set, in the goals that I have set to make you reach to that goal, right? So please interact with me in the comment section. Give me some suggestions that any topic you want, or if you want me to continue in the same way but maybe slightly modify, go slow, go fast, anything, please feel free to comment. Thank you and all the best.